Hey everybody, I'm Gary, and this is the Kindred Way. Hey everybody, thanks again for joining us on the Kindred Way. Today what we're going to be making is world famous potato soup with dumplings, and by world famous, my world family. So it's super simple, easy to make. You can modify it any way you want. So there's two parts of it. There's the potato soup part, and then we have the dumpling part of it. So we'll get to the dumpling part in just a minute. But we have 1 cup of finely chopped onions, a half a cup of bacon bits. We have 1 large stick of butter. I use salted, but you can use unsalted if you want. I have 1 tablespoon of garlic salt. I know it sounds like a lot, it's not. 1 teaspoon of regular salt and 1 teaspoon of pepper. So I've already gone ahead and cut the onions down, or the potatoes down, maybe 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch, but you can chop them any way you like. Already got them in the water, starting to boil, a little salted water. You want to have about maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches of water above the potatoes. You want them to cook. I don't want to cook them fully. I want to cook them most of the way, but not all of the way. So while this part is getting cooked and doing its thing, we're going to go ahead and make the rest of it. And so what we do is we take a saucepan, okay, and then we're going to add our butter to it. Oh, got to get it all out of there. There we go. And we'll let the butter melt down. Turn this on. Okay, hang on. Alrighty. So that's going to boil down, and what we're going to do is once that's melted, we're going to add our onions, and what we're really doing is just kind of softening them up a little bit, browning them. Once that's done, we're going to add our bacon bits, and we're going to let that sit and simmer for just a little while. Let me get my handy dandy spatula out. We decided to do this video because there was such a great response from the chicken yum yum. I decided to do another one. And again, really easy ingredients. I like making meals that taste fantastic, but don't have a lot of prep time. There's not so many steps to do it. And this is another one of those gems. So let's get the butter melted down. And I don't care what anybody says, more butter is better. So get this done. Chop them up just a little bit. It's funny because every time I make this or make it for the family while I'm making it, it never gets done soon enough because I want to eat it. And the potatoes in here, just to let you know, there's about 8 cups of chopped potatoes in here. The reason I do so many is because everybody loves it, and there's leftovers, and it's just gone. So keep giving that a little stir. All right, so the butter is about melted. Now I have this burner on medium, so just a little bubbling and boiling. We'll get that all melted. Okay, so next thing we're going to do now is we're going to add the onions. Yes, they did make me cry just a little bit, but it's worth it. It is. All right, so let's get all the onions in here. All right. Okay. Get those all stirred up. Yeah, so we basically just want to sweat these onions down and just let them brown up just a little bit on there. So we'll let that go for a second. I'm going to check these potatoes again. One of the other reasons I chop them a little smaller is they just seem to cook better, a little quicker, and I like it that way. But you can chop them bigger, you can chop them smaller. It's all up to you. The same with what goes in. If you have it, you know, you want less onions, use less onions. If you think it's more flavorful with more, add more onions to it. The same with the bacon bits and the seasoning. I use this because I make it regularly enough. I know what it tastes like. But again, you can modify. You can use less garlic salt, less pepper. And once everything is in here and as it's going, you can taste it. And that'll tell you where you want to go. So you can add more salt then or less, whatever you want to do, it's your choice. Okay, so these are bubbling nicely here. All right, swirl these around a little bit. So they're starting to brown up just a little bit. Maybe turn up this heat just a hair. Get those going. And again, 1 full stick of butter, you know, salted butter. You might think, that's a lot of butter. It's not. Once you put it in and get it mixed, so these potatoes aren't going to be fully cooked. So what you're going to do is, a lot of that butter is going to get into the potato, absorb and whatnot. And the other thing to mention about this water, the reason you want 1.5 to 2 inches is because when these get to where I want them, I'm going to take it and I'm going to drain the water, but not all of it. I'm going to drain the water till, you know, it's maybe a 1/2 inch below the potatoes. So we're going to use some of this water. All right, so our onions are browning really nice. I'm going to go ahead and add the bacon. Okay. Oh, that all came out. The other thing, if you're a vegetarian, you know, however they say it, you can not add the bacon if you want. And we are going to be adding milk in half and half to the potato soup. So again, I figured we put a man on the moon. There's some lactose-free milk out there. So that's your choice. You can do that. And again, with the eggs, you can use any eggs you choose. So all my recipes are really flexible because it's all based on you and making it easier, more efficient, but still having a great meal, you know. So let these go for just a few more minutes here. And I'm going to tell you, and it's 100% true, this soup tastes so much better the very next day because it kind of thickens up a little bit and everything gets to swim around together, so it's great. So I'm going to let these cook for just a minute. I'm going to check my potatoes and see where they're at, and I'll be right back. Okay, so my potatoes are done, and what I've done is I've taken them and I've drained a lot of the water out. So with the potatoes sitting here, I know you can't see it, but the water level I drained out enough is maybe 1 inch below the level of the potatoes. And so you want to keep that in there. So before you do anything else, you want to take your onions, you want to take your bacon and your butter, and you want to put them all together. So these are done. You can see how they're all golden brown and yummy good. It smells great in here. So we're just going to go ahead and dump that in there, getting all of it in there. Alrighty. All right, so that's in there. Let me put this stuff out of the way. Okay. Alrighty, so now we're just going to take this and we're just going to kind of blend it all together. Get a nice mix in there. And the reason you want to add this before you add any other things to it is you want all that butter and bacon and onion flavor to be able to really blend together. You want the potatoes to soak up some of that butter and the flavor. And these potatoes are pretty hot still with the water in there. So you don't really have to turn the burner on again. You just want to make sure this is blended really well. The other reason that we let this sit for a while is because, as you know, when you cook potatoes, they'll break down. So what you want is some of those potatoes that you're stirring and they're breaking themselves up a little bit, that's going to help the sauce thicken up as time goes on. So that's why I say tomorrow when you eat it the next day, it'll be a little thicker. It'll be It'll be really good. So we're gonna let that sit. I usually let it sit for about 10 minutes. But if you can't wait, you can start throwing everything in and going at it. So I'm gonna give this 10 minutes. It is exactly 3 o'clock exactly. I will be back in 10 minutes and we'll get started with the rest of it. See you then. Okay, so it's been 10 minutes. That's been able to sit for a little while. So let's go ahead and take another look at it. I have switched to a slotted spoon. So when you stir this, it's gonna seem kind of thick, okay, because of the water that was left in there. But here's the thing, we're gonna add some half and half now. Now I use half and half. You don't have to use half and half. You can use skim or non-fat, 2%. I'm from Texas. I like my whole vitamin D milk. I like to chew my milk. So let's go ahead and get this in here. If you can get it open. Okay. I know it seems like a lot, okay, but trust me, I made this, it's all right. So we're gonna go ahead and pour all of it in there. All right. Again, I know it seems like a lot, but that's part of the joy of this dish. So let's give it a little stir here. We're gonna turn the heat back on, and you know, a little less than medium, because that milk's gonna cool everything down. So we'll just get it all mixed up here. Okay, now as this goes, I will be adding a little more regular milk to it, just to get it to where we want it. So again, you can tweak things as you like. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna let this heat up. And once this gets all warmed up, then we can add the garlic salt, the salt, and the pepper. And then once that's all in and we kind of get it where we want, we're gonna turn it on low, keep it covered, but we're gonna stir it every once in a while, you know, to get it all blended up. But while that's happening, we're gonna go and make our dumplings, okay? So some people like to use biscuits and just cut off little pieces and throw them in there. Everybody's dumplings are different. So you can add more flour, less egg, more egg. Some people like their dumplings really big. I've found that doing the big dumplings, the inside seems to be a little hard. Not as spongy as a good dumpling should be. So again, when you make this, you know, if you have to, if it gets a little too thick, add just a little bit of milk to it. That'll thin it out a little bit. But again, make your dumplings any way you want, okay? So we're gonna let this heat up, and once this heats up, we're gonna come back and we're gonna go ahead and throw everything else in, and then we will get started on our dumplings. I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so we're back. This has gotten to just a really very low boil. So I'm gonna turn it down a little bit, because I just want it to simmer now. So we're going to add the rest of our seasoning to the pot. And I think earlier I said 1 tablespoon of garlic salt. I meant 1 teaspoon, not a tablespoon. But if you want, if you like it, you can add it. So we'll add that 1 teaspoon of salt. And the pepper. All right, got everything in there, and let's give it a nice little stir. Get it all mixed really well. Okay. Yep. It's getting there. All right, so I mentioned before that we were gonna add more milk to it. So part of the reason for that is because right now it's pretty thick. If you take a scoop, there's a lot of potatoes, you know. So we add more milk to it. And once we get it to the consistency we like, then we'll start adding the dumplings to it, one at a time. So we're gonna let this simmer. Let me get my mix ready, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we've got this simmering. I'm gonna work on the dumplings now. So I've gone ahead and put the 4 eggs in here. Horrible shot. And I know I said 1.5 cups of flour. Now, some people make them differently, okay? So I add flour till it gets to a consistency that I think is right. So let me double check this really fast. Make sure it's got a nice little simmer on it. Okay. Make sure that's down. Alrighty. So 4 eggs. So what I'm going to do, a little garlic salt we had, a little regular salt. Now I'm going to add flour, and then what I'll do is once I get it partially mixed, I'll see where it's at as far as consistency, and then I'll add more flour if I need to. All right, so let me get in here and see where we're at. All right, definitely gonna need more flour, which I already knew. I'm sorry I'm clearing my throat. I got a dry throat today. I don't know what it is, but okay. Let's get this mixed really well. Gets a lot of the clumps out of the flour, or out of the mix. So once we add more flour, it'll blend a little easier. Okay. All right. So more flour. All right, let's see how that mixes out. I have made the mistake a few times of adding flour and starting to whip really quick. That tends to make a mess. Because you know flour likes to shoot around everywhere. Okay. All right, let's see here. Okay. Okay, so you can see it's still a little thin, so we're gonna add a little more flour. And again, there's a lot of people out there that have recipes for dumplings. You can use those. I mean, you can't really go wrong with dumplings, right? So, all right, let's see if we can get this mixed out. Okay. All right, so what we've got now, it's definitely a little thicker. I need it a little more thicker than that, so we'll add just a little bit more flour here. A little more. All right, let's try this now. Oh, see what I mean? Take your time. Okay. Okay, so now it's starting to get to where I like it for dumplings. So let's see here. Let's take a look. A little more. Ugh. I like to get mine to a point where it's kind of hard to mix. Okay, so now you can see it's a lot thicker. That's personally pretty much where I like it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna let this sit for a little bit, okay? We'll put everything else away. The flour out of the way. Okay, so again, make your dumplings how you want. Again, this is, get some. It's pretty thick. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna let this sit for a while. Not gonna hurt anything because we want this to get to where we want it. So the last thing we're gonna add is the dumplings. Once I add more milk and get it seasoned the way I want, then we'll start adding the dumplings, and I have a really great technique for adding the dumplings. Spoon on spoon, and spoon and scrape it in. So we're gonna let this sit for a little while longer and simmer. The dumpling batter, that's gonna sit for a little bit, and I will be back in a little bit once I get this taken care of a little bit more. I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, we're back. So I've added about, maybe 2 to 3 cups more milk to the mix here, because earlier just adding that, it gets super thick. So you need to thin it out a little bit, kind of cuts on the garlic and the salt and whatnot. So now it's time to put the noodles in. So what we're gonna do is bring this up to a light boil. I found that having a little light boil works really well for doing the dumplings. So let's give it a stir here. And you know, it's possible I might have to add a little more milk. It just depends. We'll see what happens once we get the dumplings in. So my super awesome method for doing the dumplings, little measuring cups. This is a half a teaspoon, and this is just something to get it off with. So basically, I dip it in a little bit, and these have been washed and sterilized to get a little coating on it. So when I go to grab some dumpling, it just comes right off. So when you go to dump it in, you coat it again, and then you grab some more. And you just keep doing that over and over. Now I'm sure that there are a lot better ways to do this than the way I'm doing it. You know, like a cake icing dispenser or something like that. I just kind of have always done it this way, so it's kind of the way I do it now. So I'm gonna get these done. It's probably gonna take me about 2 days. It's gonna take forever to do this much, but it's definitely worth it. So I will see you when I get all of this into there. We'll see you shortly.
One eternity later.
Okay, so I finally got all the dumplings in. That takes such a long time, little scoop at each time. Maybe an ice cream scooper thing would work better, but everything's in here. It's looking fantastic, smells fantastic. I might have tasted it just a little bit to make sure it was great, and it is so great. It's thickening up nicely. So now all you basically got to do is put it on super low as you can get it. Put a cover on it, let it sit for a while, you know, and when you're ready, have at it. This is a great dish. Again, tomorrow it's going to taste even better than it did today. So I don't expect it to last too long in your home. I know it doesn't in ours. But that's going to be it for today. My sister Carrie has some great things coming up, more canning and freeze drying in a freeze dryer. So that's going to be really exciting. As always, thank you for watching. Let us know down below in the comments what you think, what you're looking for, and ways we can improve your experience. Again, for me and my sister Carrie, thanks for joining us on the Kindred Way. Have a great week.